Hey everyone, welcome to Untamed and Prosperous. I'm Dr. Natasha Nelson, your life doctor. So this is episode or part 3 of the 7-part series of the mind-body connection, which is teaching you the emotional meaning of the different parts of the body. In episode 1, we went through the feet and the ankles. Episode 2, we went through the knees, and we are working our way up. So today is going to be about the hips and the low back. So, as a chiropractor, most people end up in my office, number 1, because of low back pain, and number 2, because of neck pain and headaches. So the low back, there's a lot that goes on that's happening in this low back, the sacrum, the pelvis, the hips, they're all connected. So before I even get started, I have to give you my disclaimer. I am not your physician. If you're experiencing any pain, low back, this episode is really about one area and one level of healing. Make sure you consult your doctor before you make any changes. There you go. So the low back, there's a lot of energy that's contained in the low back, the hips, this whole region of the body. When emotions of really fear of life and fear, it'll show up. It shows up because instead of just having the flexibility and the body to move, you can see it. You see it if you're looking how people walk, how they stand, the pain that they're in and tightness around this area. So let's talk about the hips first. So the hips, obviously part of the whole leg system, and we talked about being able to move forward in life. But the hips are a little bit different because while the knees and ankles move forward and backward, the hips have the ability to move all the way around, right? Think about what you do with the hips. You go forward, side, back, squat, splits. So what does that mean? Well, the hips, while they are allowing you to move forward, it's about how well do you handle change of directions quickly, right? How well, and I don't mean just physically moving in different directions, emotionally, think about that. Where are you having trouble moving in different directions when things change too quickly? Are you able to see and move in all the different directions how life operates, right? Whichever way it goes, are you able to move with the flow? So that's giving you an idea already of what's going on with the hip area. As we move into the low back, we think about the hips forward. I want to bring you to the side view in the low back. The low back, the whole spine. People think your spine is supposed to be straight. Well, from the side view, it's not. You're supposed to have this nice curve in the low back. The reason you need this curve is every time you run, you jump, everything that you do, the curve and the discs between the vertebra absorbs the shock. Even just walking, the spine has a nice gentle give to allow you to absorb just the shock of walking and working out. When you start to lose the curve of the spine and it becomes flattened, well, how does that happen? Well, sitting on the chair on your computer all day is going to start to decrease the curve in the spine. You do that long enough, the discs start to squish and the vertebrae start to change their shape. So then it becomes permanent. But what happens when you lose the curve in the low back? Then the spine and the discs are not able to absorb the shock of everything that you do. So if the low back can't absorb the energy of walking and the ground, that energy goes somewhere. Well, it starts to get trapped in the muscles around the low back and into the hips and in the legs, which will cause a fatigue, and then it will cause injury later on. So that's why you want to have some of this curve in the low back. Now, that does not mean have accentuated curve and too much curve. Doesn't mean too much more curve is better, right? This idea of more curve, what's happening is now you are stretching out the abdominal muscles and the psoas, like the hip flexors. And what's happening there is you don't have the strength of the abdominal muscles when you have too much curve, and not enough curve too, but really too much curve. So if you are leaning forward to pick something up, think about getting something out of the trunk of your car, right? Because if it's on the floor, you're supposed to bend with your knees. Something out of the trunk of your car, you'll lean into it. Well, as soon as you lean forward, it's the abdominal muscles should tighten, allowing your body muscles to do the work of lifting and protecting your spine at the same time. But when you have too much curve, you don't have the strength, and now it pulls too much, and you're going to injure your back, right? So I want you to think about, that's the physical mechanics in the low back. But what about the emotional components of the low back? The low back and the pelvis. This is the foundation, the foundation that your entire spine is built on, right? It stems from the hips, the pelvis, the sacrum. So if instead of, you look at it and go, well, is it tilted one side or the other? Because that's going to affect your body. But where in life are you unbalanced or tilted? Is there some place in your life emotionally where you feel unbalanced, right? Too much, way too much, work, personal, whatever it is, you get to decide and start to think about that. The low back, when we are, really has a lot to do with the fear and money. So the tightness, the fear, when we feel like we're not sure of the foundations that we are standing on, and not just job-wise, but financial. When we have a fear, that fear causes us to clench the glutes. We clench the hips, we clench everything in here. Well, that affects the muscles in here. It'll also affect the intestines and the organs. And that'll be the next episode, but I wanted to bring that up already. So recognize where emotionally are you feeling unstable or tilted, unbalanced in life. Where is it that your foundation feels unbalanced, that needs to be worked on? Where is it that you are so tight and rigid that you're losing the curve that you're supposed to have in the low back? Because when we are too rigid, we are not able to be flexible and go with the flow and able to change directions in life and feel stable in our movements. Okay, so I know there's a lot more to go with, a lot deeper, but that's just for today's episode. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope it gives you another layer of the healing, part for you to work on. So of course, if it is, give me a like or comment or share, because it's truly appreciated. So that's it for today. I will see you in the next episode. And I'm Dr. Natasha Nelson. Until next time, live life untamed.